G'day, welcome back to the channel. If you've been eyeing off those shiny stainless steel kegerators, but your wallet starts crying just thinking about it, then stick around because I'm going to show you exactly how to knock up a kegerator from a cheap marketplace fridge and end up with something that the Minister for War and Finance will actually let you bring inside when we're done. Look, when I started home brewing, if you wanted a kegerator, you build a kegerator. There were no off-the-shelf options. The build I'm going to show you today is compact, it's versatile, it's budget-friendly, but don't let the simplicity fool you because avoiding a tower, we're also avoiding 99% of the foaming issues that catch new keggers out. Look, over the years, I've learned exactly what works and what absolutely doesn't, and hopefully I'm going to help you dodge a few of the mistakes new brewers make when putting together a kegerator from scratch. So there's heaps to cover, so let's dive in and take a look at the fridge itself. Now, if you're looking for a video that shows how to get into kegging without drilling holes in your nice shiny new fridge, look, I've got one of those. It even includes a look at the 8 litre Oxybar kegs. I'll link to it up here somewhere for you. But as soon as you've clicked this video and we're here, I'm going to assume that your significant other's given you their blessing or they're away for the weekend and you're planning on a surprise with an upgraded fridge when they get back. Before we get into drilling this fridge, we need to talk about safety. Refrigerator cabinets themselves can hide all kinds of nasty surprises. You can have refrigerant lines running through the outer walls. They can have electrical wiring, and some models even have heater circuits on the door. And that works to defrost them. So a little bit of care goes a long way. First thing, we need to make sure that the fridge is unplugged, and that should go without saying. But I'm going to say it anyway. It's kind of one of those unwritten rules, like make sure that there's water covering the element before you power it on. People melt their kettles all the time, so make sure that the fridge is unplugged. Next, PPE. When we're drilling metal, that swarf that comes off, that can be razor sharp, and if it ends up in your eye, you're going to end up looking like a pirate for the rest of the week. So chuck on a pair of safety glasses. It's a little bit of cheap insurance. And while we're on the subject of old school advice, you may have heard people say that you can heat up a nail and just push it through the plastic liner to start your hole. Look, that worked back in the 70s and 80s because back then, refrigerators used fiberglass insulation. Modern fridges don't. They use something called cyclopentane. That's an on-the-piss word, but it's to blow mold the foam insulation. And while it's great for the environment, it's also super flammable. So, red hot nail inside a modern fridge panel, yeah, look, just don't do that. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. All right, now that I think I've covered a little bit of safety, the technique we're going to use in this video is slower, but it's safe and it'll keep your fridge and your eyebrows intact. Let's dive down and have a look at the fridge. So this is our little 133 litre bar fridge that we picked up on Marketplace. And I'll just show you inside and why that matters. So you can see there that it's got a cold plate that sits right at the back of the fridge, and this one is in particularly good nick. All the shelves on the front are actually removable, and you can see I've just marked that out with some blue tape there as we're going to put our taps. So these shelves all clip off, which is also very handy. So I guess the first thing we're going to do is strip out all of these shelves and the crisper drawer. Right, so we'll just get rid of all these. So these Westinghouses, they're particularly good. The cold plate's all at the back. And you can see there that I've managed to get rid of all the drawers and the like, and it gives us a nice flat area to work with. So that's us, that's the fridge there. Looking around, I don't know whether it will show up on camera, you can see it's got a little bit of a tan line there from where the Energy Star sticker was on it, but that's not going to be a drama either because we're going to wrap the fridge anyway. All right, so I guess things you need to be careful of. We look in the back of the fridge here on the right hand side. Yeah, we can see that we've got electronics there with the thermostat and the light. So that tells us that there's electrical things or electrical wires running on the inside, and we don't want to be drilling there. So the right side is going to be our prime target for drilling a hole for the gas. Now, we could just use this back hole here and feed our gas line in there. I've done that in the past, but in this instance, we're going to drill through the side of the cabinet and mount our CO2 line. We're going to drill and mount our taps on the door, and I'll show you how we get into that in a second. So to remove our top part of the fridge itself, there's a couple of screws in either side, and they're just a Phillips head. And once you've got them removed, it's just a matter of just lifting up and off. And that should give us access to the door hinge, as well as to the top of the fridge. Now, we don't want to be drilling into the top. Again, there are lines for the coolant that run through the top and through the sides of the cabinet, but this will just help us when we go to give the fridge a bit of a wrap. Now, as I said before, we want to work with these because I want to use these later on in the future to hold things like glasses or maybe bottles or the like. So we want to position it so our taps are working with the shelf system. So in order to do that, I've 3D printed a support bracket that will sit on our tap shanks and hold them and support this door. So let's get these holes drilled in the door for a start. All right, so when we're drilling a hole through the fridge itself, I'll just get this shelf up and out of the way. All right, so we want to come in, and hopefully you can see there. I'll just bring this up a bit. We just want to come in, find our centre. We're going to start from the inside out so we don't tear out the plastic. Gently, gently through both our centres. And I've just got a 3mm drill bit there just to start us off, and then we're just going to run a probe through and tap it. Now we're going to come in and just use our screwdriver as a probe, come in nice and straight and feel around on the inside to make sure that there's no wires there. And I should be able to just tap the outside of the fridge itself, which I can just there. We'll come in this side, nice and straight, and do the same thing. Just tap it with another screwdriver. Same with this side, nice and straight. Come in and we're just going to tap it to leave a little dent on the outside of this door. All right, hopefully that shows up. I've got 2 little pock marks on the outside of the door, and I'm going to mark them with the centre punch. There, like that. So just bring yours around so you can see. All right, so we're going to just going to start with our first hole here. Nice and slow. Just going to try and stop that from wandering around. And in we go. And we're just going to repeat that with this side here. All right, now it's just a matter of, with the step bit, opening these up. Righto, so that's both our holes drilled in this side. Let's have a look how we went from the inside. You can see I've worked from this side out as well. So I guess let's test fit our shank. That's it with the tape off. I know it always looks as rough as guts when you've got that tape on there after you've drilled it. But if you're careful with marking stuff out, you shouldn't have too many dramas. Here's our second shank in there. Oops, just dropped that retaining nut. Righto, so once our shanks are in, our support plate that we 3D printed, it's going to sit over the top of them. And then our locking nuts are going to wind down firm and pull those shanks into the door. And our shelf should still be able to fit. And we'll soon see how that looks with that shelf on there. And that's it there. The support bracket's in place with the shelf. We're in good shape. And that's how it's looking from the outside now. So our two tap shanks mounted. Now, we're going to repeat the same drilling process, especially with that probing on the left-hand side of the fridge as we look at it, and we'll get the gas line fitted. And there we go. You can see that I've drilled just a 10mm hole there for an 8mm grommet. So we're just going to use an airlock grommet, is what I think is going to go on the side there. So that's just some Phillips head screws up here in this door hinge. And then I'm hoping all this plastic will just come straight off and we can start wrapping the fridge. Okay, so that's that front piece of the fridge off. I'll just put that over here, making sure that we keep hold of these screws. Okay, so we're going to give this a squirt with some water and then get our vinyl started.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Yeah, right, so mission success. That's it. All drilled, all wiped out, and our wrap's on. All that we're going to do is just put the top back on, and we should be in pretty good shape. So there we go. That's our lid put back on. It's nice and firm, it's not going anywhere. Door opens and closes properly. The wrap's on, and we're just going to let this set up for a couple of hours and then come back and fit our taps to it, as well as around the corner here on the left hand side where I drilled a hole for our gas in. This wooden top that we've got fitted actually has an interesting story behind it. It was originally a charcuterie board that was discarded into a bin last year at Christmas time. So I did what any good home brewer would do, seeing something in the bin, and I pulled it out, and I've taken it out, cleaned all the food off it, give it a good sand back, a light stain, and I've just glued a couple of pieces on the outside, and it's just press fit, and it'll sit on top of the bar fridge itself to give us a workspace. So I guess the next thing we're going to do is work out where we're going to put our actual drip tray. This drip tray is a second handy. It came from a bag of bits and pieces that I found at a garage sale. It was sadly sitting in the bottom of a plastic bag with a bunch of broken gauges and disused taps and the like. So again, I paid 15 bucks for the bag of the stuff, and it's not too bad. Now that's going to get a bit of a paint up later, but we're going to determine where we need it. So I've also grabbed one of my tallest glasses, so we want that to be able to sit on top of the actual drip tray itself and drain. And the tallest glasses I've got are these wheat beer pint glasses, so if one of those will fit, anything else will fit. And for our taps, we're using the Nuka Tap Punisher editions because I think they'll go really well with the wrap itself. All right, I'll set you up and I'll show you how we're going to determine where we're going to mount our drip tray. So what I've done is I've laid out some blue painter's tape, and I've just come in and marked our centre line along that painter's tape there. So that'll give us a starting point. Then we're going to come in and work out how far down this drip tray's got to go on that centre line to fit our tallest glass comfortably under the taps. And I reckon about there somewhere. So I'll just come in and mark it, and that's where we'll put our first hole. Right, so I'm going to come in and centre punch that mark right there. We're just going to come in with our 3mm drill bit and just drill out our centre hole. Again, taking our time. From there, we'll start our first 3/16 stainless screw and just run that into the door. About there is good enough. And from there, we'll hang our drip tray. Just firm that up a little bit. And come in and make sure that we're level. It's got to come up that way. We're going to mark our other two holes and get those drilled. I'll see you after I've done that. Righto, so now I guess it's a matter of, we'll just get rid of this painter's tape off here. Just really careful. Come in and fit our stainless steel drip tray. And we just tighten those screws up a bit. And there you go, all fitted up. And that's how we're looking so far. Seriously, that's the hardest bit out of the way. All the fittings are mounted. Our taps are mounted. Our drip tray's mounted. Now to finish off this drip tray, all we're going to do is give it a couple of coats of etch primer, as well as a shot of satin black Dulux epoxy enamel. All we're going to do now is sort out the plumbing on the inside, which is easier than what you think. If you've gone this far, you're really on the other side at the moment. It's just, this is really simple, this next bit. So now that we've got our taps fitted to the outside, we're just going to come in with a shifter and just give these, you know, quarter of a turn, just to make sure that these tap shanks aren't going to rotate themselves around. To the back of the shanks, obviously, duo-tight fittings. And don't crank down on them too hard. Go sort of finger tight. And then just, you know, quarter of a turn. So we'll just come in, you know, just give them quarter of a turn to start with. because remember they're plastic, right? So don't crank down on them. Now for our beer line, we're going to be using the 4mm in a diameter EVA Barrier, as well as a couple of flow control disconnects. Now I opted for that because no matter what style of beer you're doing, it's going to give us the ability to control the flow coming out of our taps. Righto, so I've just prepped our beer lines, 1.8 metres each, and I've just run some cable ties just loosely around the outside of them. And you don't want them too tight because you want to be able to slide the cable ties around just to neaten up the inside of the fridge. What I do is just come in, just pull them a little bit tight, and then just, you know, clip the ends off just for neatness. And this will just allow us to keep the beer lines in on top of those kegs. So if you're doing this yourself, I found that to be about the right length of cable. You want to be able to open the door and disconnect things without pulling all your kegs all over the place. And you also want to be able to keep them up and out of the way. So again, just use your Mark 1 eyeball and sort of work out where the disconnects are going to sit. But you definitely don't want them just whacked in there to free range, because you'll end up knocking kegs over and all sorts of stuff every time you open the door. The advantages of having your taps mounted on the door, you're not dealing with that first pour foam because it's cold all the way to the tap, as opposed to using a tower. The disadvantages, I guess, is it's kind of a bit more difficult to open the door because you don't have all the beer lines neatly running up on the top of the fridge itself. All right, so that's our beer side sorted out with our flow control disconnects and our taps. And now we'll move on with getting our gas sorted out. So in the interest of keeping things simple, I'm not going to be fitting a gas board, although you could later on if you wanted to. I just think it's going to be too limited for space in here to mount a gas board. And then if we did that, it'd be fine, but we'd have to find somewhere to mount it up and out of the way, and space really isn't a premium in these. So in order to use the KISS principle, to keep it simple, stupid, we're just going to run with a simple T-piece, a couple of gas disconnects, obviously our EVA Barrier gas line, and the one non-negotiable whenever we're building a build, as far as I'm concerned, is a check valve, and that's going to live inside the fridge to protect our regulator. On the outside of the fridge itself, I've designed and 3D printed these carb cap bulkheads, and this is printed out in PETG, so it's going to be pretty durable and not fall apart. And all it's going to do is screw to the side of the fridge and allow us to mount a carb cap as a bulkhead. And I'll leave obviously links for it down below in the description. When we fit this to our EVA beer line, we're going to use obviously a crush clamp around it to make sure that it is gas tight. Obviously go easy, it's only plastic. Now I hope to get this to show up on camera. You can see there that I fitted an airlock grommet on the inside there, up and out of the way in the corner. And if we come around this side, you can see I've got one here on the outside as well. Now, that carb cap bulkhead is going to sit over the top of that, like that, and just screw to the fridge itself and provide us a nice neat way of getting CO2 into the fridge itself. Now you could just run the line straight through there, and I've done that in the past, and that is perfectly fine the way it is, but I want to be able to disconnect this quickly. Alright, so that's what we're looking at there. Carbonation cap stepless clamp, and obviously just a length of beer line that's going to feed from the outside into the fridge itself. And from there, we'll put on our check valve. Now, if you've never used check valves before, there's an arrow on them that indicates the direction of flow of the CO2. Don't get around the other way, otherwise you'll end up with undercarbonated beer, I almost guarantee it. All right, let's get this fitted. So there's our gas bulkhead fitting, fitted to the side of the fridge, and we can just come in and connect our gas line and we're good to go. And so this is what our gas line looks like. It comes in through that grommet, comes down, in through the check valve, down to a T-piece, and just a couple of ball lock disconnects. And I've just cut that so it's long enough to sort of reach out here outside of the fridge. But if we curl it up, it'll just sit neatly in the back there. Now, before we go putting any beer in this thing, we need to talk about gas leaks. Anytime you build a new system, change your fittings, swap your disconnects, or even just reconfigure your lines, you should do some kind of leak testing. The way I do it is nice and simple. I crank the regulator up to around about that 40 PSI and just leave it disconnected from the kegs. Then I turn the bottle off and I just leave it overnight. If you come back the next morning and you've still got pressure showing on the regulator, then you're good to go. If the pressure's dropped even just a little bit, it means you've got a leak somewhere and you need to track it down before you hook up any beer. And while you're testing, grab yourself a spray bottle with some soapy water and hit every joint. The disconnects, the duotites, the clamps, T-pieces, the check valve, everything. And if it bubbles, that means you've got leaks. And don't do this with beer connected because the pressure will drop as the CO2 dissolves into the liquid and you'll spend all night thinking you've got a gas leak when you haven't. You're just carbonating the water that's in your kegs. Once it holds pressure overnight and there's no bubbles with the soapy water test, then you're ready to hook up your kegs. Don't skip this step. If you do, the only thing that'll be pouring out fast will be your bank account. One slow leak and you'll wake up to an empty CO2 bottle and a flat beer. Ask me how I know this. This will save you at least some grief. All right, let's see how versatile this thing is. So this is us in bar fridge mode. I've got all the door shelves on, all the internal shelves, and we can just use it as a normal bar fridge. Righto, this is us in twin Cornelius keg mode. You can see two 19 litre kegs there, and I've had to just take the shelves off the door here. Okay, this is us with three 10 litre mini kegs. The one thing you will have to watch is if you've got these keggers, the 10 litres won't just quite fit because of the height of the tapping head. I mean, they would fit, but you'd have to take the crisper drawer out and stuff like that. But the Kegland ones fit with the low profile tapping head kits. No worries at all. And this is us with the two Kegland 10 litre mini kegs at the back and the two 5 litre keggers in the front. And again, you can leave all the drawers and the like and the shelves fitted and it will shut, no worries at all. Righto, let's talk costs, because now I know a lot of people want to know whether it's actually worth building your own kegerator or buying an off-the-shelf unit. So let's have a look. So the fridge itself, that cost me $200 on Marketplace. And for the condition it was in, it's absolutely worth it. It's a bit of a score. It's clean, there's no freezer, and look, you saw the layout. It's perfect because it's got the cold plate at the rear. The taps and the handles and all the hardware, that came from Kegland. Now I'm running two Nucar Punisher taps at $39 each. The two stainless steel short shanks, they were $12.95 each. So for the plumbing, I've got 2 flow control liquid disconnects, 2 gas disconnects, an inline check valve, what else? T-piece, plastic carb cap, bulkhead, and the gas line itself. The drip tray was second hand. That was a bargain at 15 bucks. That came from a box of random brewery gear that I picked up at a garage sale. So I'm just looking now, all up, this build owes me around about 460 bucks, maybe 480 in materials by the time you factor in, you know, all that miscellaneous sort of stuff like printer filament, paint, and the wrap, which, you know, it was a lot cheaper than buying a brand new off-the-shelf kegerator. And look, you end up with something totally custom that fits exactly what you want. And the best part is you can build it in stages if you want to. You can reuse hardware that you already own or second-hand stuff. A commercial off-the-shelf unit, even the entry-level home brewer kegerators, they'll set you roughly about $750 Australian, plus that's just for the cabinet and the taps. The trade-off, I guess, is time and elbow grease. But seeing as you've watched this video, you've already made the investment and leveled up your knowledge on how to do this without all the trial and error. And you'll be rewarded with a kegerator that's cheaper, it's custom, and it's built to fit your house, not someone else's spec. So there you go. One little marketplace fridge turned into a fully functional 2-tap kegerator, and you saw just how versatile this little setup is. 2 19-litre Corny kegs, easy. 3 10-litre mini kegs, no dramas at all. And 2 5s and 2 10s, that fits perfectly. For a little 133-litre fridge, this thing punches well above its weight. Look, if this video's helped you out, could you do me a favour and give the video a thumbs up? It really helps the channel out and tells the algorithm that this video is worth a watch. Or if you've got any questions or you're building your own kegerator, drop a comment below. I'd love to see what you come up with. Oh, and if you want to get into kegging without drilling into a fridge, I'll link to the kegging without a kegerator video up there somewhere. Look, thanks again for watching. Thanks again for supporting the channel. If you haven't subscribed, remember to click the subscribe button, ring the little bell icon. That way you don't miss out when I've got the next video that's ready for you. Look, enjoy your new kegging setup. I'll see you on the next one. Till then, remember, life's too short to not have a go and save a few bucks and make yourself a kegerator. I'll catch you on the next one. Till then, cheers. Oh yeah.